Alors, nous allons continuer de parler risques.
So let's stay on the topic of risk. Welcome to Uwe Schieder, who's the Vice Chair of the Loss Prevention Committee at the IUMI. He's going to talk about the major risk of fire on board, a risk which has become more and more prevalent in the last few years. He's going to speak in English. Don't hesitate. If you don't have a headset, there are attendants who will give you a headset.
Thank you very much.
I was saying you're going to tell us about cargo fires.
Yes.
So I'll leave you the mic and the stage.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. 2 points before I start. Sorry about my dress code. I lost my suitcase on the way to Paris. Sorry about that. Sorry. And then the second point I want to make is I'm not talking in your language to you, and be sure it's not my language. But I try to do this in an understandable manner. And this is risky as well. So now we are going to talk about risk. I'm not a technician. Maybe I had the wrong.
On the green one?
Maybe
okay.
Take the other one.
Check the other one.
Stereo. Yeah, one of these both work. I don't know which one. I try it. Okay, this is my short agenda. I'm starting with the development of the ship size, some statistics. I like statistics sometimes. The problems with cargo fires, the development of firefighting system, extinguishing options today and tomorrow, and yeah, the future and new challenges in the future. So I try it again. No. Oh, no. Wonderful. So this one worked, this not, maybe so. Yeah, development of the ship size. In the last 50 years, we saw small ships. I've been working on a ship that's super small, that is this area. And then the second biggest was a 2,000 TEU vessel, but the second 1,000 TEU vessel is that one. It's super small. In 50 years, the development of the ship size increased about 1,500%. 15 times more cargo on one ship. And at the same time, as I start with the seafaring, we had 36 seafarers on board. Nowadays, we have 21, 23 seafarers on board. So reducing the crew and increasing the mass of cargo. This was the development. Statistics. We're talking about cargo fires on container vessels. My statistics starts on 2000, and only the ship names, and all these ship fires, cargo fires on board of only cargo fires on board of container ships are here listed. 74 container fires, cargo fires on container ships. Problems with cargo fire. Two sorts of cargo fires. Here on the, from your side, the left-hand side, is a cargo fire in the hatch down there. And here on the other side, on your left, on your right-hand side, there is a cargo fire on deck. Cargo fires under deck. Yeah, containers under deck, hatch cover closed, and we see here a ventilation flap open and a lot of smoke is coming out. Two chances. There's a seafarer or firefighter standing there and talking about what to do. Enter the hatch with hoses and nozzles, fighting the fire directly, man to fire. Super strong, but too risky. And the other chance is to close the ventilation flaps and flood the hatch with CO2. But does the CO2 really help? In a hatch full with containers, closed, preventing the cargo from the CO2? And the other is a cargo fire on deck. It's a wonderful fire, full fire, so full cargo fire, the whole aft of the ship was burning, no chance to fight the fire. That means in the other way around, we have to fight the incipient fire. Seafarers only have the chance to fight incipient fires, full cargo fires, there's no chance, we need additional help. So, another problem with cargo fires is that containers are built for preventing the cargo, for rain, snow, wind, spray water, sunshine, and, yeah, unlucky we are, unfortunately, they preventing the cargo, the burning cargo, from the extinguishing water. If you're starting now spraying water on these containers, the cargo will burn. And even if they hang overboards like a wet towel, they are still preventing the cargo from the extinguishing water. So what can we do when containers burn? We can all cool the periphery and try to let them burn down in a controlled manner. You cannot extinguish container fires. Development of firefighting systems. Very long time ago, in the 50s of the last century, CO2 systems were developed. This is a ship, Cap San Diego, I was on for 36 years ago or 38 years ago. For these ships, normal freighter, 10,000, 12,000 tons, CO2 systems were developed. In every hatch, we had the outlets of the CO2 system, and during the normal voyage, all days and nights, 24 hours, air would be taken out of the hatch, checking if there's any smoke with the photocell, and if there's interruption of the photocell, then the fire alarm break out. The crew has to check. At first, check the crew. Is everyone here? No one in the hatch? All right. Then the crew checks the ventilation flaps, close them, and then the hatch. Only the hatch, the small one, was flooded with CO2. Direct contact from CO2 to the cargo, and the workways of the CO2 was to dilute the O2, the oxygen, from the cargo. And then you were really able to damper the fire. Not extinguish, but to damper the fire. Nowadays, this year, 2 hatch covers on a container vessel. You see the gap in here? CO2 in the hatch, with a fire in the hatch. There's a lot of air exchange in the hatch due to the gap here in the hatch cover. On the normal freighter, there was an airtight, really air and watertight hatch cover, no problem. There's no air intake and no air outtake. That is definitely fantastic. And here, there's nothing tight. Only the hatch cover is laying and very, very open and loose on the top of the hatch. It's not necessary because the containers are preventing the cargo. So the hatch cover is important for carry all the other containers. This is the headquarters of GDV I'm working for in Germany. And with a bit fantasy, it looks like a container vessel. But here in these think containers of the GDV, in every think container we have a sprinkler. And a sprinkler are 2 things. It's a detection system and a firefighting system. Why is this important? This is a copy from my property friends in the GDV. Here they start a fire on a rack for pallets, 3 pallets high. 5 seconds, 20 seconds, 40 seconds, 60 seconds, and then here this sprinkler was reached by the flames and it go off. After another 60 seconds, the fire is down and the firefighters can wrap up the rest. So this is to prove that fire, at that time with fires, with cargo fires, time is absolutely as an essential factor. Back on a ship. If the crew won't manage to fight the fire, if they are lucky, they can they call Mayday, 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 and some salvage tugs may appear after hours or days. And if these salvage tugs attack the fire, they have monitors, water cannons. And these monitors are very effective. One monitor had about up to 20 tons a minute of water. 2 monitors, 40, 2 salvage tugs, 80 tons in 1 minute. But is this in targeting extinguishing method? You see them spraying over the ship, and here cooling the ship structure, but this spray over the ship, and only by chance it will reach the fire. So this is not a targeted extinguishing method. And here, this is a super good photo. A lot of action, there's fire, there's an aeroplane throwing water down. It's looking great, yeah? But it won't work. Only a few drops of water will drop down on the containers, and the fire is very, very small, and laughing about this good, wonderful picture. So what to do? Yeah, the problem with the position of the salvage tug is the salvage tugs, if you see them in the harbor, they are huge. But if you see them beside a super container vessels, they are small. And imagine a fire on a container ship in the middle of the North Atlantic, North Pacific. There's swell, there's wind sea, there's a lot of movement, and the ship is like a nutshell on the water, and it is definitely more difficult to reach the fire, to cool it directly. Some other guys told me, Uwe, the crews are too small. Only 23 people, one cook and some trainees. They are not enough to fight fight a fire on a container vessel, super huge. Okay, I will give you an example. We had a fire on a container vessel, the CCNI Arauco, burning in Hamburg. 300 firefighters in action. They open up the hatch. They ordered additional CO2 before, then they open up the hatch because it won't work. Then they fill the hatch with foam. Won't work, they close it again. Look what happens, the fire is still on. And when was the fire extinguished? Firefighting in this case is on board a container vessel is a bit like David versus Goliath. And the fire was extinguished as the hatch was filled with water. Time is essential, an absolutely essential factor. If you won't manage to extinguish a fire, an incipient fire in a hatch, the only thing to fight it and to manage it is to flood the hatch with water. In Bremerhaven, this is the next example, Maersk Karachi was burning. 150 firefighters in action, and the fire was extinguished as the ship, the hold was filled with water. What is interesting here, this tug here cools the space between these two bays, and successfully. Because he was making sure that the fire is not able to transfer to the foreship, and this tug here cools this area and fill the hatch with water, and he managed that the fire was not able to go aft. Yeah, 150 or 300 firefighters on board. The effect was nearly zero. The fire was extinguished as the hatch was flooded with water because the action was coming too late. So 23 members of the crew, firefighters, seafarers, they are good firefighters, they are excellent firefighters if there is the right tool and technician for them, technique on deck and in the hatch. We will be talking about. This is a typical cargo fire. The picture is a bit old. It's from the Hanjin, Pennsylvania, a German ship. Here you see the bays and the space between the bays, open fire. And please realize here the change of the color in the containers into black. There's a lot of heat in there in all the tiers, So will you send some seafarers and your officer here in between to fight the fire, not knowing if here anywhere is a container with undeclared DG cargo, deemed to explode in that moment when the seafarers appear on scene? MSC Flaminia was burning 5.5 weeks. 3 seafarers lost their life and 3 were injured seriously. A typical picture again from a fire in a container vessel. Containers are hanging overboard like a wet towel and still preventing the fire from the extinguishing water. And here the heat transfer from container to container, even in between here, the lashing bridges, there's space in between, never mind, there's heat enough to ignite all the other cargo on board. The extinguishing options today. This is a normal container vessel, small one, 8 to 10,000, because the deck house is at the aft, and here's the CO2 tank, or bottle room. What a chance is there? A fire in a hatch. This is the end of the hatch here, both sides. And here is the fire in the hatch, and what are the options? We have to close the ventilation flaps and flood the hatch with CO2. And then pray. If the fire make its way due to the heat transfer or an explosion on deck, then the seafarers can fight the fire, but their life has been on risk in that moment where the fire came on deck with a small explosion or with the heat transfer. It is definitely difficult, and again, you don't know if here anywhere is only one container with DG cargo miss or undeclared. And normal seafarers and firefighters, maybe also in France, they are not 3.5 container tall, they are only 2/3 of a container tall. So I steal these firefighters from the internet, and the size was not so correct. Extinguishing options of tomorrow. If we are talking about problems, we are talking about solutions. Again, our ship, and the solution is the partitioning of the vessel. The natural partitioning is the decks, the main deck here, and then some vertical partitionings, and there are some natural partitionings of the ship due to the deck house. In the hatch, we have the chance to fill the cofferdams fore and aft of a hatch with water. The water will come, the water intake here will come from the ballast water system and flow through these cofferdams, make sure that the heat won't be transferred to the aft and to the foreship. And even the sides of the ship hull has to be cooled by spraying water. The problem with steel is steel loses its stability between 600 and 800 degrees. So very, very important is to cool the hatch cover. Otherwise, the hatch cover will collapse and all the cargo will be sank down in the hatch, and the fire has more stuff to burn, and it's a wonderful fire. It never ends. So, yeah. This is a good idea, spray water system in the hatch. It's super simple, a bit pipelines, spraying operators, and that's it. Working well. So we have CO2 in the hatch, we have the cooling of the whole structure of the ship, and the cooling of the hatch cover, and additional water to control the fire. That's great. Now we have to make sure that we have the same partitioning on deck. So we try to go inline upwards on deck, and there we use the lashing bridges for here the lashing bridges without cargo, a photograph from the aft. or this was me, Picasso, trying to not to take the photograph out, but it was a Maersk vessel. So don't tell them, please. It is important to cool the area down the first 5 to 7 tiers, because these containers have a lot of fire load because they are full of cargo. Up there are only light containers or empty containers. So we are able to make sure that this water curtain, a drenching system, will build up a definitely cooling area, so that the heat won't be able to transfer to another bay. Yeah, on top of these, we are going to. Our suggestion is to use hydro shields. Hydro shields are made of water, and they are not so intense, but there are a lot of empty containers. We can overlap them 50%. And if you say, okay, these hydro shields are blown by the wind, yes, they are blown by the wind. But if the water is blown by the wind, the heat of the fire is blown to the lee side of the vessel as well. So this is a chance to work. And this is the proof, this is the Maersk Honum, fourth ship of the Maersk Honum, and this is the proof that it will work. Why? These salvage tugs, all of them, they tried to cool the fire, and they cooled the front side of the deck house. And you see, the front side of the deck house is black, and the side is not black. They made sure that the heat won't be able to transfer through the deck house, and all the rest of the ship was safe. The cargo and the ship was safe. 5 seafarers lost their life in this action. So, extinguishing options in the hatch on deck, great. Now we need active firefighting, because salvage tugs appear on scene after hours or days, 1 or 2 days. This is definitely too late, because time is an essential factor. So the crew should be able to start firefighting immediately after recognizing the fire, and press the button, water on deck. If there's a seaman on deck, never mind. A seaman is extreme watertight. Look at me, I'm extreme watertight, but not CO2 tight. And now we need detection systems. The detection system is super simple in the hatch. We need better one. And on deck container ships carry up to 60% of their cargo. 60% of the cargo on deck, and there's absolutely zero fire detection system. If we manage that, it would be fine. And this is a detail. We need a circle line extinguishing pipeline, making sure that a ship is able to fight a fire even after a collision from port or starboard. Yeah, the future. Thanks to MSC, the future began yesterday. They built a new super container vessel and 8 of these monitors on deck. And we have a bird view for you. So, okay, there's no wind. There's absolutely no wind. Seafarers under you will see there's no movement here in the water, and the water will reach 2 monitors every point. Okay, if the ship is on fire, we have the additional, maybe in this area, 2 partitions, so 3 parts, and then we are able to turn. Nautical officers and captains don't like this. If the ship is burning, they put it out of the wind, but now they have to turn it into the wind, making sure that the water will reach the burning cargo to let it burn down in a controlled manner. Press the button and the water flows. Then the seafarers, they are moving the joystick, drinking coffee, and they will do that for 1 hour, for 1 day, for 10 days, no problem. They used to do this. And they are in a safe atmosphere with a safe distance, cooling the fire at once. And these are the best firefighters ever, because if you are out there, you can dial, in Germany, you dial 112, I don't know what to dial in France. there will no firefighters come, because there's all around the ocean and water, and that's it. A new challenge, talking about the super new challenge. On my mobile phone, I let it by Pascal, because it's too heavy here in my jacket. But these lithium-ion batteries are a real challenge. We have them transporting in containers, and sometimes they end up like this. We have more and more fires with lithium-ion batteries, and the discussion was, is it a problem transporting cars? You know, the Felicity Ace transported around 4,000 cars from Volkswagen, and there have been some, I don't know, 100 or so electric cars with lithium-ion batteries on board. No one knows if this was the reason for the fire starting on the vessel. But if so, if the fire starts, a conventional fire or lithium-ion batteries, we have a problem on these ships. Why? This is a garage on board of a super normal car carrier. It's a huge garage, and it's not only one fire compartment. You see these holes down here? Here, holes for the web lashings, so for the lashings of here, the BMW. These holes you will see here on the deck under. Small holes. So this fire compartment is about 2 to 3 decks. I go back, hopefully it works. Yes. This is not only one fire compartment. 3 of these decks, are one fire compartment. And then, in the case of fire, we have to flood it with CO2. In our air that we breathe here in the room is about 21% of oxygen. A normal fire needs up to 10–12% of oxygen. If you are able to reduce the oxygen, then the fire will dampen and anytime will extinguish. So this is the trick of using CO2, diluting the oxygen in the hatch. But a burning lithium-ion battery produces hydrogen, a huge amount of hydrogen. And hydrogen only needs 4.5% of oxygen. Diluting the CO2 concentration under 10% will not dampen the fire. And it takes a very long time, 10–20 minutes, to dilute the oxygen in these huge cargo holds or decks of the car carrier. Even on a container vessel, it took 10–20 minutes. So this is definitely too slow, because time is an essential factor when fighting a fire. We have to flood a deck more quickly with CO2, and we have to reach a O2, oxygen concentration lower than 4.5%, better under 4%. And how is this possible? Using aircraft turbines. They are still in action. We're cooling the exhaust gas here with water down to 70 degrees, and they are producing in the exhaust gas a oxygen concentration of 0.5%. In a large quantity, super quick. So this is what we need, and cool the exhaust gas down to a temperature that is acceptable. And last but not least, we need an additional firefighting system, because the time is an essential factor. And we had a problem on a car carrier with these open decks with water. So water on these open decks is difficult because the free surface effect. So we use less water with high pressure water missed. Automatical systems in small parts, partitioning also automatically, if the detection system realized, yes, there is a fire, start at once the water mist, and for taking the energy out of the air, making sure that the fire won't spread, and also start the CO2 system. Thank you for your attention and bon voyage.
Thank you very much, Uwe. On a un tout petit peu de temps, alors si vous avez une...
We have a little bit of time, so if you have one or two questions, please go ahead. I think there's a microphone available in the room. I have a question myself, Uwe.
Cars, can you tell us about the ferries? Is it different, and are you thinking about that?
This is a super good question, thank you. Yeah, on ferries we have another problem. On ferries we do not have CO2, and we are not allowed to have CO2 in these decks, because it is forbidden for passengers to go into the car decks during the voyage. But be honest, have you been there? Because your wife lost her whatever, cosmetic things or photograph? Or your husband lost there his cigarettes or his lighter?
We only go when babies lost something, that's it.
So, no CO2 system, but on ferries we have lorries. Lorries have tanks, big tanks, 800 to 1,000 liters of diesel. We have lorry loads loaded with maybe DG cargo, with fire loads, super huge fire loads on in their cargo. We have cars that are able to be electric cars. They are able to be charged on a ferry. So charging an electric car doubles the risk for self-heating up of the lithium-ion battery. We need to carry out special firefighting option in these areas. So it is much more difficult. No CO2, only water, a super high fire load on board, and we need to react super quickly. There is a action at the IMO, the International Maritime Organization, and this project is called LashFire. They are looking since, I think, 2 years on all the trouble statistic, technician and technique for the fire, the cameras, what realizes, okay, is this smoke or is this fire, for getting immediate alarm to start the drencher system or to start the spray system, because time is an essential factor by fighting a fire.
Est-ce qu'il y a une main qui se lève? Oui, Régis.
Regis, you have a question?
For this very interesting
It was a pleasure.
presentation. I like what you say, being that when there is problem, there is solutions. And we see here what you presented is a solution that would be available on board, I would say, the vessel. But what do you think about, and we know, and you make the reference to it, what is not 100% between the hands of the carrier is the misdeclared cargo. And we know from our loss ratio over the last years that it is one of the main causes of fires on board. So, and then this is in the supply chain, the transportation chain. So don't you think that we should open all the discussion with all the players of the supply chain?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We at IUMI, thanks to my chairman, Pascal, sitting there, and Lars and all the IUMI family, we are in action at the IMO. And we are sitting there together with the shipping lines, the World Shipping Council and so on. And the other Lars Kier from the World Shipping Council said, Uwe, there's no problem with firefighting systems. The only problem is the cargo. Because 99% or 99.9% of all cargo fires on board of a container vessel is due to mis- or undeclared DG cargo. And I said, yes, that's absolutely correct. But this is the problem since the last 40 years. And you haven't managed it to reduce this factor. The other way around. At the beginning, I showed you the start of these small ships. Now we have these giant ships, 15 times more cargo on board. So there is the chance for 50 times more having misdeclared cargo on board. We have around 1 to 2 fires in a container a week on a container yard, on a ship, recognize seafarers, quick reaction, and then no one will talk about, because fire on board or fire in a container yard, it's not a good item. Yes, it is absolutely correct. And the International Cargo Bureau, it's a sub-department of the United States Coast Guard. They checked the incoming cargo and the outgoing cargo. Incoming cargo was DG cargo, most of them by 65% misdeclared, and any problems with lashing, securing, and declaration, and the outgoing cargo by 45%. So we had the problem all over the world, in Europe, in the States, in South America, in the Far East. Sometimes yes, sometimes more. This is a real problem, yeah, you're absolutely right. But we need both to increase the quality of the declaration extremely all over the world. But who will check this? The Chinese police, the Philippine police, the Brazilian police, the German or the French and the Norwegian and wherever. And there's the whole supply chain. And until here in Germany, we said until the Alps, and you have the same Alps here in France, where's the container loaded? And who was the one that declared the cargo? This is really difficult. So the shipping lines have to find a system for checking the quality, and on the other hand, we have to increase the firefighting system aboard. It is definitely not acceptable that a ship won't be able to fight a fire, or sending their seafarers in front of the fire, this wonderful fire, face to face. It's a super dangerous fight to fight.
As a conclusion, what would be your main advice just to settle now in the ships?
My conclusion is, we are on the right way. We are working at the IMO, and thanks to France, your flag state, the flag state of France was supporting our plan at IMO, as the German flag state does as well. But we are definitely too slow, because we have been sleeping 20 or 30 years. Whilst container ships were rising and building bigger and bigger, they said, oh, it's wonderful. They are transporting so much cargo. This is super. And we have a CO2 system. This is fine. And sometimes there's a fire on board. Okay, what a shit. Oh, I'm sorry. But we are on the right way. Now we're getting behind, and we are increasing the speed. But if we are talking to 170 different states all over the world, and NGOs like IUMI is, and these are the good guys, yeah? And there are some not so good guys. So yeah, we are increasing the speed, but we are too late and too slow. But better we start now than tomorrow, and yeah, we are on the right way with the ferries, with ro-ro and ferries, and on the container vessels. And if it's quick, in 10 years, we have new build on the new build container vessels, better firefighting systems, I'm sure.
Thank you very much. Merci à tous.
Thank you very much. It's time for the break now.
Je vous donne rendez-vous.